All right, podcast community, welcome back. This is Three Questions Podcast. My name is Cam, but that's irrelevant. I have my good friend Jeff here for another guest round on the podcast. His first one is actually, I think, episode 13. Either way, it's the most listened to podcast that I have. Like, stats are crazy off the wall in comparison to all the other ones. I'm trying to get a lot more guests on. You know the format, 3 questions, 5 minutes each. So, Jeff, what's up, man? How are you doing?
What's going on, Cam? Thanks for having me back.
No worries. I figure it was overdue. You're one of my CMO for hire clients. I love getting your messaging out, and I thought our first podcast really hit it off. I thought your answers were awesome. Obviously, people ate that stuff up, and I have you back here for a couple select questions that we just spoke about. But do you first want to tell people about what it is that you do, where you live, what you've done in the past? The floor is yours, man.
Yeah. So for those of you guys catching up for the first time, my name is Jeff Leonard. I own a business consulting business here in Nashville, pretty much based around strategy and operations, with leadership tied in there. I've going for a triple MBA at Penn State right now. Just finished up a Lean Six Sigma certificate at Syracuse University, and I'm going to be transitioning to a new job in downtown Nashville as the COO of a digital marketing company. So it's a great opportunity that kind of my business, led me into. So a lot of change coming up over the last couple months and over the next couple weeks for sure, but all good stuff. All moving in the right direction.
Dude, I am like always astonished at what you're doing. You always give me these surprises about what's next in your path, and you're such a high achiever. So congrats on the accomplishments thus far, and best of luck going forward, especially with that new job. That's cool.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
So without wasting anyone's time, Jeff, are you ready to sort of get into our Q&A?
Let's go.
All right. So again, I'll give you a hand signal when you're coming up on 3-4 minutes. Don't feel like you need to fill it up with all 5 minutes. We can make it discussion based if you'd like. But I know you're going to have a lot of good insight. So question number one, as I set my timer, too much noise in society today. Yeah, we get blasted with hundreds of advertisements, and our time is now being attacked, right? How can we sort of clarify and focus more in today's world day by day?
Yeah, good question. And I'll just start out saying, I'm not immune to it. It's literally out there for everyone to get overconsumed by it if, you let it. And I think really there's a blend between the two. You need to know what works for you, what benefits you, what, doesn't benefit you, what hurts you, and stick to your guns on that. Be disciplined about that stuff. And then also chalk up some time in your schedule to like learn and listen too. There's never anything wrong with, seeing what's out there. I would say be very open-minded, understand what you agree and disagree with it. Some things may work for you, some things don't. I think if one of the biggest things I've learned throughout my entire life, and even starting this entrepreneurial journey, everyone's like has their own way of running their business, what success looks like. And your dream, your vision is unique to you, and I'm not saying disregard what everyone else says, but make sure you understand like what works for you and what benefits you, and stick to your guns on that. Kind of like I said, like you have to take the knowledge and kind of what, is out there, and understand how you can make it work. You're going to have to put your own little flavor and your own little tweak on it to get it to work for you. If you decide to use it, I'm not saying, just do a straight carbon copy of what someone else does, but if you like the way they do it, you may have to tweak it to, make it apply a little bit better to you, or how you do things, see things, view things, so I would just say, to answer the question, there's going to be a little bit of blend of both, but know your boundaries, set up guardrails for yourself a little bit, make sure you're chalking up your time. I love having a disciplined schedule where I chalk up the mornings mostly for my entrepreneurial work, homework when I'm in semester. My last semester just finished up. Next semester, fall semester starts in a couple weeks, but most of my early mornings are school, entrepreneurial work, administrative work, and working out. And then that way my 9 to 5, is, especially being the COO and taking on that type of responsibility with a company underneath me, I'm going to have that time dedicated for that. It's going to be longer days than before. So I know the only time that's guaranteed to myself is in the morning. So now I'm going to have to chalk up that time to, knowing what I know and doing what I do best to run a successful company. And then the other time is maybe you get an hour for lunch, you get a break between meetings, check the news, check the podcast you like, take in some information. You're going to kind of have to just fit it in wherever you can get it in. So to answer your question, it's kind of a little bit of a blend of both, I would say.
Dude, I absolutely love that. And I tell my own coaching clients that being protective of your time, especially as a male or any entrepreneur, you've got to learn to be able to, number one, say no, and number two, be protective of your time. I think people think that time blocking is like this cute concept that you can do it if you want, but like absolutely not. You have got to time block. I also tell my clients, and I do this myself, when I make sure that I write what I need to do down the next day. I write it in a journal, and then I sleep on it and marinate on it and let my brain figure out the priorities of the things that I need to do the next day. And sometimes I'll write it out in the schedule. Like this morning, I needed to go to the doctor, and then I went to the DMV to get a new license. And I wrote all of this down last night. So I knew the second I woke up today what I was going to do in succession already, which leaves no time for time wasting like Instagram or any sort of other bullshit. And I shut everything out. Don't answer calls, don't answer texts. This is what I need to do. So sounds like you've been doing that for a long time. And I think other people should definitely take your advice on that.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I always screw up the name. I can't pronounce it. It's like the Pombrano effect. It's like essentially 25 and 5. So if you literally set a timer, and I bought one, you can use your phone or whatever, but I don't like being on my phone. I like do not disturb. So I shut that down as best as possible. So I bought a timer, a digital timer, 25 minutes on, 10 minutes off, or 5 to 10 minutes off, whatever you need. And you just hammer out that task, whatever you're going to do for 25 minutes. And then when the buzzer goes off, get up, get a drink of coffee, water, do whatever, and then rinse and repeat. Like that has actually helped me a lot when I just have a lot of shit to do. And it's like, I don't have time to talk, a bunch of tasks going from task to task to task. That has saved my life. So having a structure like that, it's not a bad thing at all.
No. And the only reason why I know the name of that method is because I'm Italian, and the word is pomodoro.
Okay, that's it.
Which is Italian for tomato, but the pomodoro, effect is essentially your time blocking, right? You're setting 25 minutes for pure unadulterated work. And that's a great method. Some people do 45, 50, whatever it is. So do whatever works for you. Experiment with that. Let's hop into question number 2. Question number 2, also focusing on routine and discipline. What are your specific tactics for navigating your life and your business? What are the pillars that help you maintain your routine and discipline?
Yeah. So you said it the best, and I totally agree with this. It's protecting your time. And I think you have to protect your personal time. Like everything we talked about in that last question is like, how do you like navigate a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 day, or 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. day, whatever you do, right? But like I understand growing a business, and right now it bleeds 6 to 6.5 days a week, and I get it. But it's like whenever you have time for yourself, you have to take it and like shut it down. And it's okay. Like one of the best things I do if I'm going to do morning workout, usually I'll run during those times, is like I turn on like good energy music, especially for my long runs. And I just zone out and let my mind run its imagination like crazy. Like there's a good song that'll fire me up. And now I'm picturing myself like the Mariano Rivera closer walking into Yankee Stadium and like all that stuff, and you got to do that. And like, you'll be surprised that you actually release a lot of suppressed emotions. Like you feel excited, you feel passionate, you feel, emotional, all like while you're on this long run and like you're just letting it go. And that frees up, I think, a lot of creativity too in your mind, where your body just like isn't so suppressed with being task oriented. It can kind of do its thing. Like your mind's crazy machine, and as some people know, it can like kind of run wild, and sometimes you got to let it run wild, so like throw on some good beats and go for a long run, and that's what I do. And then the other thing is it sounds so cliche, is traveling back home, a lot of my friends got into golf, and I used to play, and I loosely say play, like just get out on the course and have some camaraderie with friends. But I've kind of got back into it a little bit, and by no means am I going to investing a lot of time in this, but if I get a chance to go out for a couple hours and do something different, focus my mind on a different set of skill, a personal skill, all that stuff is good. I got a chance over the summer, take a couple of vacations with my family, sitting on the beaches of Maine. And I did, I think, a very, very good job of just shutting down for 3 straight days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, checking a couple emails afterwards, but not sitting on my phone, not trying to answer emails, do that type of stuff. So when the time comes where you get those opportunities, don't miss it. It's probably a little bit rarer when you're building a business or starting out in your entrepreneurial venture, or if you're a solopreneur and you're kind of a one-man show. Totally get it. There's going to be, ebbs and flows of that, but definitely when you get time to yourself, do something spontaneous, get out of the house, go for a run. If fitness is your jam, like just put on some good music, try taking a couple hours to try a new recipe, instead of ordering out, maybe order out instead of cooking for 3 hours, so you get a little bit more time to yourself. Do something different, really, is kind of what I'm saying. Get out of the normal 9 to 5 routine. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me.
I think you're spot on with long runs. Long runs, you get that endorphin rush at some point, whether it's mile 7, 10, 12, 15, 18, and the pain just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right, your mind just starts shedding all of this like heavy stuff that you've been thinking about. And if you've never gotten a runner's high, I think that is the best high. The best workout high I've ever gotten has been from long form running. So I second that for sure. And then you also said another thing about creating space and taking those opportunities. I've noticed for myself, at least, if I have a ton of stuff that I need to do today and I'm frantically thinking about this and that and on the hamster wheel and jumping around, I'm a big proponent of meditation. Maybe it's not for everybody, but for me, if I have a lot of things that I need to do and I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I take 5 or 10 minutes, silence, just think about there and let my brain sort of tire itself out, everything becomes much more focused. So I think actually taking a step back from running into that frantic schedule that so many people do Monday through Friday, and then they spend Saturday and Sunday trying to escape it. I think that's probably my 2 cents, or at least one of my go-to strategies as well. But holy cow, and family time. So many people overlook this.
Yeah.
So many people overlook this. And that is a great, I know everyone has their issues with their families at some level, but spending quality time with the people that brought you into this world and helped you get through it and are still helping you get through it, underrated. People don't talk about it enough.
Yeah. So. And I think one of the bigger things is I realize that, I'm the only one in my family right now that's kind of done an entrepreneurial thing. And, I moved away and I was in the military for 7 years, and, getting the opportunity to go up and see people, like, I mean, I understand I was kind of on a different wavelength, just to have that type of different thinking, willing to bet on myself a little bit more. But and the reason I just say that is, like, every time I go up, yeah, to your point, maybe you don't agree or align with everything perfectly that your brothers and your sister and your parents may traditionally think, but I mean, they're your family, they're your blood, and it's always good to spend time. And especially me being an uncle with my brother's kids, my oldest nephew, he just went to college this year. He's playing college football, so he's at camp right now. So, just getting more time with those guys. And, because I remember when he was born, I was a freshman in college, and now he's off to college. And I'm like, where did those 18 years go, man? And like, I'm sounding very much like an old man, but I'm not. But it's true. Like, 18 years flies, 7 years in the military flies. Time flies, man.
I second that. The best analogy I ever heard is that time is like a roll of toilet paper. When you have a lot, it feels like you're going to have that forever. But the lower you get on the toilet paper roll, the faster it goes. And it's,
dude, it's true.
I always think about that.
That's fact.
Yeah. Yeah. A wise person made that metaphor. All right. So Question number 3. This is a good one, and I know you're gonna have a lot to talk about. So loaded question. Um, Man, society today, a lot of issues, especially in American society today, or Western society as a whole. A lot of different issues going on. What would you say a few of the big ones are, and how can they be not alleviated, but how can they be dealt with or catered to? What's the most effective solution? Because that's what I know your coaching business is really all about. What are some effective solutions for society's biggest problems?
That is loaded. I honestly, man, like one of the bigger things I see is, and I think like we saw a lot of it starting with COVID too, is so many people rely on the government or someone else to make a strategic decision for them. And it's like, you need to learn to take care of yourself. And I'm not saying like, I don't mean that in any other stance other than like, don't rely on anyone else to make your life happy, to make your life successful, you know? And I have nothing against a normal 9 to 5, but like, even me taking this new job as a COO, I still am doing my own business, my own coaching business, you know, but I'm in a partnership and it's a strategic position, but it's still aligned with someone else's dream. You know, like if you're waiting on someone else to provide, you know, the white picket fence and everything that the America's dream was like 60 years ago, it's not the way it's going to be, man. Like you need to take control of your life. You need to make proper investments. People need to learn. I'm in a real estate mastermind that meets once a month. And like I'm a big real estate fan. I think everyone should get into it. And we talked about the appreciation of housing, right? But the bigger thing is what's the biggest thing that kills the dollar today? And it's inflation, right? Well, what's an asset that goes up in value with inflation? Is real estate. And it's like, if you think of that, your money is protected. Like, yeah, the market crashes every once in a while, but a home's value is still a home's value. The dollar might not be worth something. If that ever went away, the home value may be worth 12 Bitcoin or something, but like, you know what I mean? It's still going to be the home's value. So I think like people need to start thinking outside the box and like how they're going to, you know, invest and protect themselves and kind of take control of their own lives a little bit. And, you know, if you can do an entrepreneurial venture, even if it's silly, I would recommend doing it. There's someone that I knew in high school and she moved away and she used to make these like cake pops and just for like her niece birthday parties, you know, and then all of a sudden she has a successful business doing the same thing down in like South Carolina. And I'm like, that was just something she did as a hobby for her niece's birthday party. And now that's her business. Like it doesn't need to be this groundbreaking Mark Cuban technology that everyone thinks it is. Like you can take control of your life doing simple things that you love to do, you know? So I think one of the bigger things is let's stop looking for someone else to make our life easier, do, you know, solve problems for us, answer questions for us. Like you got where you are because you're smart, you're successful. Like start betting on yourself a little bit more. Stop waiting for someone else to make you happy. It's never going to happen. Someone else has their own priorities, and it's no offense to anyone else, but no one has my vision, you know, so I can't expect anyone else to run a company the way I could, achieve my vision the way I could, understand the processes and problem solving ability the way I do. It's just, it's mine and it's unique to me, and everyone has that in their own way. So I think people need to bet on themselves a little bit more, you know?
Dude, I couldn't agree more. When I was writing this question, the answer that I had, or I was thinking about, was victim mentality. I see all around the world, especially in Western society, unfortunately, that a lot of people choose to be victims. And a lot of people look at a daunting task like being financially free or having their own work autonomy. And that seems like, or having enough for retirement. And that seems like a very daunting task to them. So instead of reading a book about finance, instead of reading a book about real estate or entrepreneurship or marketing or what have you, people will just put their heads down into their phones and scroll on TikTok and Instagram, which I view those things as business tools, and other people
Totally.
use them as escapes. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs also view that way, but Instagram is primarily a business tool. Anything else, you know, the way people use that, they use it as an escape. So I would say this escapist mentality and this victim mentality are like detriments of Western society. Forget about all the, gender studies issues going on. I think, our government is a whole different story. There's a lot for me to be concerned there with like foreign policy stuff, but across the board, those are two huge issues that I don't have the answers to. And all you can do is really affect others through your individual actions. And I think when we focus on ourselves and stop trying to change other people, that's how we sort of, become the change that we wish to see in the world, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think, you know, this ties a little bit into the military stuff, but it's so funny. Like, we used to talk about the 5 principles of patrolling, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you just did that for any single mission, period, like if you had those 5 basic things down, it's a successful mission. Pretty much your odds are in your favor. But like, what's the number 5, Cam? It's common sense.
Yeah.
If you like look at the situation, have common sense about it. Like, I guarantee it's gonna work out if you just have the common sense. And a lot of people don't. They look for some backdoor, like, oh, this isn't, for face value. And maybe it's not, but like, trust your gut and common sense is gonna prevail. And those are some of the things that I think a lot of people are starting to disbelieve when, like, just it's common sense, man. Like, that's the answer. Like, I don't know what the stressful situation is, And I think the other thing is you're going to make thousands of decisions a day, a week, a month about a variety of things. And I think one of the things is like, if you make a poor decision, okay, what'd you learn from it? Like, I just bought something online the other day and I'm like, this isn't at all what I thought it was going to be. I'm like, this sucks, right? Like, the value of what I intended it to be is like literally zero. But what I learned out of that was, I read this book and I was like, well, you know what? I can't use it in the intended way that I wanted to, but I can use it in a totally different way. And that helped me feed more content onto my social media platform. It has absolutely nothing to do with what I wanted it for. I thought that was going to help me build a skill that I needed and close a gap for me. And it's like, nope. But now I'm using it for a completely different purpose and actually serves a lot more value that way. So like, every time a problem comes up, I would say, don't just, chalk it up for a loss, see you later. Like, how can you use it to your advantage? And it's one of the things I tell my clients. It's like, all right, your situation kind of sucks right now, or maybe it's stagnant or it's not where you want it to be. But like, how can you help you have the situation that you're in help you for future success? What can you learn from that? What can you take it? Don't let, you know, as Green Berets, we always talked about, creating an environment for success based on what we have, right? So do that in business too. And that's kind of what I do. Like, there's a lot of things you can't dictate, macroeconomic situations, COVID, all that nonsense. And like, all of a sudden, I think a great thing that came out of it is people understand that you can run a business remotely. You can run a business effectively through a small group of people. You don't have the opportunity to bet on yourself as an entrepreneur. I think there's more entrepreneurial ventures that probably came out of the back end of COVID simply because of, the trust factor of, a situation like that. We know that can happen. So you got to have a backup plan. So whether it's a side hustle or something like that, I think a lot more of that stuff happened for people, and good for them for, taking charge and being brave in a situation like that in their own hands.
One thing that you mentioned, and again, there are so many aspects of military life that can be brought into business, but we're not doing Jocko Willing stuff here. But you said common sense, and part of common sense is, this is so important. Also, just having some sort of resiliency, right? Like, yes, you need common sense, but betting on yourself, you have to be somewhat resilient. And if you don't know how to be resilient, it needs to be your job to figure that out, right? Whether that's going to therapy or getting around a group of friends and soliciting advice, or just getting into personal growth. But the more resilient that you are, especially as an entrepreneur, you'll eventually develop this mindset where you'll realize that as long as you don't quit, you'll succeed. Right. And even if you don't succeed, you're learning. You never really lose, right? You're just learning what to do or what not to do, or you're succeeding. And you just keep going. Just be consistent over time, over time, over time, over. It took Joe Rogan like couple thousand episodes before he started to see that exponential growth. It was like years.
Yeah.
And he was just some sort of, stand-up comedian, show host. I still remember him when he was on X Factor, right?
Right.
And that seems like a totally different person at this point. So it's just one of those things where you never really know where life is going to take you. But as long as you continue on that road and you keep going, you will succeed at some point. I promise you.
Yeah. And you're going to figure it out. And the worst thing you can do, and maybe this goes back to question 1 or question 2, but it applies, is a great piece of advice, is like, don't compare yourself to someone in your realm that you're trying to be like, right? Like if you're a podcaster and you're like, I want to be the next Joe Rogan. Well, it's kind of unfair to you to compare yourself to Joe Rogan when he's been doing this for 20 years. Like even me, I'm like, well, why haven't I seen the success? It's like, oh yeah, you just only have been in business for 9 months and you're going through a change already. Like I took my website down. I did all this stuff because I'm doing a marketing campaign. I'm, just doing a bunch of different things to help. You learn things, you make an adjustment. You learn things, you make an adjustment. And that's kind of what I'm doing. So for people that have been in business that I see that are kind of my mentors, I love Ed Milet. I love, who's the
Hormozy.
Yeah, Hormozy. Oh man, that guy's the best. I can't wait for his new book that comes out. But those guys, it's like, man, if you think like, oh, why aren't I making, $150,000 a month like those guys? It's like, because you just started, man. Like you're still figuring out. These guys got it down pat. Like Hormozy was living out of his car or something, or like he got fired from his job and he like told his girlfriend to leave him. Like if you don't, if you don't think you need to hit that low before like you hit some success, like there's time, so like don't compare yourself to someone who's been in the game for 20 years. You're going to do yourself a disservice. You're going to be discouraged. You're going to end up taking away your unique creativity to it. Just to your point, one step after the other, man, in the right direction, you'll get there. And then all of a sudden it's like a hockey stick model. It takes off and you're like, this is stupid easy.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I had that conversation with myself the other day with a few of my side projects. And I was like, man, I'm experiencing some success, but definitely not where I thought I'd be. And then I was like, you jackass, you've been doing this for 2 months. Like, chill out.
Yeah.
Like a month and a half.
Yeah.
I was like, you need to just maybe like have that conversation this time next year and be like, okay, how can I pivot? But so many people, because of another impact from society, is that we expect instant gratification and instant success in today's society. And this has to do with all the free dopamine that's just thrown at us in support of trying to get our attention, right? These happiness engineers of these companies are fantastic at their jobs because they throw these things at us that too much dopamine just crushes motivation. And I know you know this from a neuro perspective, but staying focused and keeping the noise out is the best thing that you can do for just continuing to be able to walk that path one step at a time. And that's really all I have, unless you have anything to add to that.
Nah, man, I think we covered it pretty well. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, we could beat a few dead horses together for sure.
For sure, man. Absolutely.
So Jeff, is there anything you want to say? Do you want to tell people how to reach you, where they can find you if your website's down, email, WhatsApp? Give us the whole spiel.
Yeah. So email is jeff@nextlevelsolutionsco.net. Instagram handle is Jeff_learned, LEARNED_coaching. And those are right now 2 primary. You can, once you go on my Instagram handle, there's a link tree there to like my LinkedIn and a Calendly and all that stuff that you can book calls with me. Dude, open for anyone who's listening. Love to, talk with anyone, help anyone who's out there. And then, hopefully website launch, next couple weeks. So I'll blast that out to you, Cam, and you can put it out to your viewers as well. So
cool. Awesome. Well, dude, it's been great having you on. We'll definitely get you on another future podcast episode. I love your insight. I'm always rooting for you, as I know you are with stuff I got going on. But yeah, man, I just really appreciate your time and super grateful as always.
Dude, I appreciate it too. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the next time.
All right. We'll see you guys in the next podcast. And thanks for listening, whether you're on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Buzzsprout, which is where I upload all my stuff. So we'll see you guys in the next one. And thank you very much.